I was privileged last weekend to be part of a congregation and enjoying a service led by local leaders, and it was a Songs of Praise service. And so several of the members of the congregation had chosen a hymn and then told us why. They told stories. They gave testimony as to why this particular hymn speaks to them. And one particularly moving testimony was of somebody who had chosen "Will Your Anchor Hold in the Storms of Life?" A very popular hymn, I know. And she told of how this hymn had spoken to her at a time of great trauma and upheaval in her life, when ill health had come her way. And she had found that her rock, her anchor point, her fixed point was Jesus, and that faith had seen her through. And so hopefully would we be able to give our own stories of how our faith in Jesus Christ has been a rock, an anchor, a fixed point, a foundation. Many of the analogies and pictures that we could use. But maybe we could also give testimony to how easy it is for our eye to be diverted, for us to put our faith in other things, in other symbols of certainty and continuity. Our gospel reading today challenges us precisely in that way. It's from Mark chapter 13, and a little passage that is often called the Little Apocalypse. Jesus is clearly preparing his disciples for what is going to be a very turbulent time as they prepare for a time of persecution, when they will face all kinds of hardships and suffering because of their faith in Jesus Christ. And I think this passage is very particular for their situation and the journey that they are about to make. But the passage begins, as Jesus and his disciples leave the temple, with one of the disciples commenting on the vast size of the stones that make up the foundation of the Jerusalem temple, which of course at that point was still standing. Those same stones can still be seen actually in the little that remains of that temple, the Wailing Wall in Jerusalem, and they are massive. They are an engineering feat in and of themselves. And as the disciples come out of the temple with Jesus, those stones and the temple built on them must have seemed like a huge symbol of the certainty, the solidity, the firm foundation for Israel and her place in the world. Something to look to and know that God's future was secure for them. How much they could have guessed, though certainly Jesus is foreseeing that there will come a moment when those stones are actually hurled to the ground, the temple destroyed, as it was, of course, by the Romans within a generation. I wonder how the story we're about to hear challenges us to think about those things to which we can sometimes look as a sign of certainty, of guarantee, of security, of something to which we can hold. And whether we need to be reminded time and again not to be diverted away from not what should be, but who should be the main focus for our faith and our certainty. And it is, of course, Jesus himself. And so let's listen. Mark chapter 13, verses 1 to 8. As Jesus came out of the temple, one of his disciples said to him, "Look, teacher, what large stones and what large buildings." Then Jesus asked him, "Do you see these great buildings? Not one stone will be left here upon another. All will be thrown down." When he was sitting on the Mount of Olives opposite the temple, Peter, James, John, and Andrew asked him privately, "Tell us, when will this be? And what will be the sign that all these things are about to be accomplished?" Then Jesus began to say to them, "Beware that no one leads you astray. Many will come in my name and say, 'I am he,' and they will lead many astray. When you hear of wars and rumors of wars, do not be alarmed. This must take place, but the end is still to come. For nation will rise against nation, and kingdom against kingdom. There will be earthquakes in various places. There will be famines. This is but the beginning of birth pangs." The world in which we live can be scary. This weekend we are awaiting the final ending of COP26, and to find out to what extent the agreement of the world's governments secures for us a more certain future in terms of sustainability and dealing with climate change. On Remembrance Sunday weekend, when we're reminded of the cost of war, the impact of war, and the overwhelming necessity to work for peace, for the peace and security of all our world. There are huge challenges. To which of the certainties we look? Where do we find that surety, that fixed point? We would say, in Jesus.